This is Eagle Owl, and today I'll be talking about Nolan Smith is terrible according to who? Also, Jalen Hurts can be Carson Wentz. Uh, we'll talk about it. And lastly, we got to talk about Vic Fangio. He speaks on the defense, but let's get straight into it. All right, so before we get straight into it, Lane Johnson. Yes, Lane Johnson dropped a hype video and year 12 for Lane Johnson, the best to do it, right tackle. I don't think it's anybody better than Lane Johnson in the league at right tackle going into year 12. Now we got some guys hopefully can come up ready to take that spot, though, but those some big shoes to fill. Can that guy from Australia take his spot? Can eventually, Tyler Steen get the right tackle spot? And again, those some big shoes to fill. Those are like Jay-Z Tims to fill. Like, is there another Jay-Z? If you're a hip hop fan, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Lane Johnson again going into year 12, doing his thing, still playing at a high level. I think honestly, he probably got 3, 4 more years in him. And he's going to be an interesting guy to watch. Hopefully he stays healthy, because if not, we got some backups I think that are good. I think Becton is really good. Again, the other guy, the Australian guy, got to develop. We got some guys, but Lane Johnson is Lane Johnson. We see Jalen Hurts' record without Lane Johnson. You know who agree with me? AJ Brown. Yes, AJ Brown saying he's the best to do it. So Lane Johnson, man, year 12. Let's make it happen, man. Our vets getting old. We got to do it for Brandon Graham. Well, if Lane Johnson decide he don't want to play 3 or 4 more years, what if this is his last year? What if we got 1 or 2 more years left in him? So again, hopefully Lane Johnson can stay healthy. I love Lane Johnson, man. He's probably one of my favorite Eagles. He's probably a jersey I need to get for sure before you hang it up. But again, we all love Lane Johnson. Enjoy year 12. Hopefully we make it fun, or the team make it fun, and we don't have a collapse like last season. All right, so let's get into the topics. Let's talk about Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith, he was trending, but not by Eagles fans, by Baltimore Ravens fans. So when Nolan Smith was drafted, a lot of people wanted him because his athleticism, his speed. Remember, he had the combine of a wide receiver. Like, he could have damn near played any position. His speed, his jumping ability, the way he moves, like he could have been a wide receiver, a tight end, defensive end, a linebacker. And a lot of people wanted him because they like, that speed coming off the edge. And with us, it reminded us of like a Hassan Reddick. Like, when Hassan Reddick leave, Nolan Smith is going to be that guy to come up. Now, Nolan Smith, he didn't get much playing time his rookie year. And this is what Baltimore Ravens fans don't know. They Google stats and they're like, 1 sack, that's it. Well, if you think about it, he had to play behind Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Derek Barnett at the time he was here. And then his name was called because that's how we treat rookies for some reason in Philadelphia. But when he had his opportunities, he showed up and showed out. Always mention that playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, it was terrible, but there was 3 guys that showed up on the defensive side: Nolan Smith, Fletcher Cox, and Milton Williams. Those was the guys that showed up that game. They came to play. That's it, and that's all. And the Miami game, he was really good and took advantage of his opportunities. Now, the other games, he really didn't get much opportunities. And some games, I didn't really like how they used them. They dropped them in coverage a little too much and tried to play him at off ball because we was so thin at linebacker. And I didn't really like that. And when he went to go get the quarterback, he got pressures. He got a sack. He got a sack in the playoffs. So Nolan Smith, man, I think he's getting unfairly criticized by Baltimore Ravens fans, and I don't like it. And that's not fair to him, but he got a lot to prove. I usually give rookies 3 years. A lot of people give him 2. Say if he going to this year, he get about 5 sacks. I'm like, okay, this is first year starting. He's heating up. He went from 1 sack to 5 sacks. Now let's give him 3 years. That's why I'm so hard on a guy like Nakobe Dean. Because Nakobe Dean is going into his 3rd year. And if he don't make it happen, We got Trotter Jr., who is going to be developing in the background. Devin White, who we could extend. Zach Bond might even take your spot. And then we got another draft coming up. So if Nakobe Dean don't work out, it's one of these young guys in the draft we can get to really replace him and cut our ties. So I usually give guys 3 years. That's what I do. You know, a lot of people judge hard on that second year, but not me, not too much, because usually that second year is their first time really starting or getting as much play time, especially in Philadelphia. So I don't think he's terrible. They was on his back, and Nolan Smith, he's going to prove them wrong. I like the things he's doing on the offseason. He's bulking up, because one of the things about him coming out of college, especially being a defensive edge rusher, that he was smaller, but he's around 245, 250. And Nolan Smith would be just fine. And then he under a experienced defensive coordinator, he will be fine. And again, the back end is better. Jalen Carter is only going to get better. Jordan Davis got a lot to prove. Milton Williams coming off the bench going to have a lot to prove. Then we got number 0, Agent 0 on the other side. Bryce Huff got a lot to prove, because everybody even saying to him, it was 1 year. Let's see if you can do it again. So a lot of them dudes on that defensive line, young, hungry, and got a lot to prove, especially if they want to get paid in the NFL. So, and Nolan Smith is one of those dudes, man. And you hear the Baltimore Ravens fans, so I don't know why they're saying he's terrible. They just didn't watch enough games, okay? All right, so let's talk about Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio speaks on the defense and actually called the last year defense not very good, but brought in some new guys and looking to turn this thing around. But let me play this clip.
It was great. You know, I grew up an Eagles fan many, many years ago. My pro coaching career started in Philadelphia 40 years ago, so hopefully I'll have a little run here and finish it in Philly too. Yeah, they weren't very good last year, and you know, we have brought in some new players. We have some new coaches too, and like the way the guys worked in the off-season work program, and I'm excited to get camp started and get going, and hopefully that will be a better defense.
Love everything Vic Fangio said, and even CJ Gardner-Johnson agrees, because he reposted it on Twitter. Brought in some new guys. Yes, last year defense was terrible. It's not hard to see, but again, turn it around. Maybe we could get this defense back up to a top 10. To me, the linebackers are ranked like one of the worst or the third worst in the NFL. If you could bring that up to like mid-tier, you'll be fine. Defensive line is still there, but can they last the full season? We will see. The back end got a lot of guys. I think some guys will be cut. Some guys will be traded, in my opinion, but you still got a lot of guys. So yeah, Vic Fangio, I think he could turn this thing around. Again, you bring in the CJ Gardner-Johnson. Isaiah Rodgers is off suspension. Get Quinyon Mitchell, who they just dropped a fire pick, pause, but the Eagles just dropped a fire pitch. So like the Quinyon Mitchells, Jalen Carter, Jalen Hurts. But I don't want to talk about that, but they just dropped some fire pitches. I'm just letting y'all know. But all I'm saying is the secondary is better. Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, who's having a really strong camp. We'll see when he put on the pass, but he having a really strong camp. Sidney Brown will be coming off an injury. And then we'll see how older school guy like Vic Fangio used them. Because the number one complaint was the play calling was bad and the practice was soft. So you got a bad play caller and the practice being soft, which led up to soft tackling, which led up to laziness towards the end of the season. And Vic Fangio, he got something for that. He definitely got something for that. And shout out to Vic Fangio, keeping it a buck. You know, he old school. He ain't gonna hold his tongue. All right. So let's get into this last topic. Howard Eskin never surprises me, man. One moment I like him. One moment he's saying like, look, I don't know why people on AJ Brown back, this and that. Like, he's going to get paid. He's not going anywhere. And he was right about that. But then you got takes like this because we were about 30 plus days away from training camp. He said Jalen Hurts is going to Carson Wentz himself. But let me play this clip.
Here's what I found out when I started to check into this further. When he said the offense is 95% different, new, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's 20% different. It's not 95%. It's only about 20%. I found that out from multiple people. It's only about 20%.
So why do you
would
think he
say-
said that?
To make an excuse. The offense is Kellen Moore's. It's not Nick Sirianni's. It's Kellen Moore's offense. And we already know it. Nick Sirianni is a very good coach. I know there's people that don't, and Joe, you're probably one of them, that don't want to believe that. The players respect him. Maybe Jalen has some questions, but it's not the head coach. If you're worried about the offense, then it's Kellen Moore. And he gets along with Kellen Moore. So, what are you trying to do? It's just, he better have a good year. And I think he'll have a better year, but I think he needs to have a good year, or they're going to Carson Wentz him if he doesn't have a good year.
I totally disagree with you. Because first of all, for my Carson Wentz lovers, a lot of people forget he didn't just trade him. He wanted out. Remember that? He wanted out because he felt some type of way that the Eagles got Jalen Hurts, as he should. You get a quarterback in the second round, how long do you expect for him to be on the bench? Did they expect Jalen Hurts to change his position? No. Jalen Hurts' mindset? Absolutely not. He wanted to be a quarterback in this league. And he just wasn't with it. Carson Wentz went to the Colts. To me, he had a decent season, but he couldn't close it out, couldn't get them to the playoffs. The owner didn't like his attitude. He got traded to the Commanders, and then it just got worse from there. And then he's with the Rams. Now he's with the Chiefs. So Carson Wentz bet on himself and lost. We sent him to the team he wanted to go to. We sent him to the offensive coordinator that got him going. And it just couldn't work because of the same thing. The attitude. Can he really lead? Can he get you over the hump? And he couldn't. So Carson Wentz himself. Now, Jalen Hurts sounds like a guy who wants to be in Philadelphia, but I think he getting used to it. Our media is our media. We're going to put out things. We a big market. And I don't see, basically, if he meaning like Jalen Hurts going to eventually win out or something like that, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Eagles are going to trade him if he had a bad year, because he is a Howie Roseman investment. And I don't think he's going to have a bad year. And I think people overblow how bad last year was because the turnovers spiked up a little bit. But pretty much the numbers are pretty much the same to me. Unless I'm tripping. The numbers don't look that far off from 2022 to 2023. Now, if you look at the turnovers, yes. That's what made a big difference. Like, say, for example, this year, the touchdowns go up just a little bit. The turnovers go down. And the yards is still like around 3,900. Maybe he reached the 4,000. And he don't have this 5,000 season. I'm telling you, those numbers, if he just lowered the turnovers, that's a Super Bowl team. But Jalen Hurts can't give the ball away. We had some fluky turnovers. Like, for example, one on his stat sheet, he handed it off to Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell couldn't handle the ball. That counted on Jalen Hurts then. Bad drops, it led into interceptions, counted on Jalen Hurts. So a lot of people look at the stats and don't do the eye test. Jalen Hurts will be just fine, man. He'll be just fine. But hey, man, what do you think and how do you feel about the news today? Vic Fangio, Lane Johnson, year 12, Jalen Hurts, Nolan Smith. But this is Eagle Al, man. I'm out.